welcome to the NatterCast, our first podcast in like 14 months or something like that. As we've been living through COVID, and I've been working at a startup, and it's been hard to get people to come over, and it's difficult to record Zoom meetings and everything else like that. But we're finally back up on our feet a little bit here tonight to talk to you about Atypical. As well.
Among other things.
Among other things. Mm-hmm. And I am Jason Schenkel of Schenkel Studios. I'm way out of practice, so you guys are just going to have to forgive me on that one. And I'm here tonight, as always, with Sion. And with Guillermo, G-Man.
How's it going?
Our Atypical consultant.
But I'm more than that.
Far more than that. But our Atypical consultant for the evening. Absolutely, for sure. But before we get into Atypical, I'll tell you a little bit about us. We are the NatterCast. You can reach us at www.nattercast.com. And you can search for us on Facebook. You can also search for some of the groups we run that start with I Can't Stop Watching. And one of our wonderful new groups is I Can't Stop Watching Murder Shows.
Oh, yeah. That's mine.
Yes, yeah. So we have I Can't Stop Watching Netflix, and it doesn't have to be Netflix. You can come in. I think
streaming, yeah.
I think we're going to change it to I Can't Stop Streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really what it should be.
Yeah.
We founded it when there wasn't a lot of other streaming going on, and now it's all over the place, and so it's just can't stop streaming. But Can't Stop Watching Murder Shows. You care to tell us a little bit? Give us a little background on that one.
Well, it's a thing I have, especially if it's a good detective show. During the pandemic, I learned that it is uniquely very much a women thing. And I remember the first detective stuff I got onto was Nancy Drew when I was like 9. I bought a book for like $1 at a garage sale and was just transfixed. And read pretty much all of them. I'm sure there's a bunch more since I stopped reading them, but I love them, and I have narrowed it down over the last couple of years. The best shit tends to come out of Northern Europe. The BBC, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark.
Ireland?
Some Ireland too, yes.
Scotland.
Yeah, Scotland.
Yard.
Yeah. So, yeah, that whole area of the world just gets me.
It is filled with murder.
Yeah, and then what really pushed me over the edge to go, I just should be running one of these groups, is when SNL came out with that skit about women when they want to relax at night on their own, like getting ice cream and turning on a murder show.
Husband's out on boys' night out.
Yeah, and they're like, no, we're just getting pajamas and watching murder shows. It's so true. And I remember when you worked with Will Wright telling me, and when you were on The Sims, saying that one of the things you guys learned was that boys and men tend to want to build cities and buildings and things. And the girls and the women had a strong tendency to want to torture their Sims.
Yes. There was a bias there. It's like 60-40. I mean, everyone's behaving both ways.
Torture their own characters, or?
Oh, no, they make characters for the purpose of torturing them.
Yeah. So like you put a sim in a swimming pool and you take out the ladder and it can't get out of there.
You make a sim, and one of my friends who is a psychiatrist said that she found it really relaxing to come home and put plants all around her Sims so they had to wet themselves.
Yeah. Because you're supposed to take them to wet themselves.
Yeah.
Or trapped by a fire.
And her wife, her favorite thing was to just click the, she was doing the telescope, over-clicking it or something, and she created a men's house for alien babies.
Yes, the more you do the telescope, randomly you might get abducted.
All right.
And if you get abducted and you're female, randomly you might get pregnant. Yes,
but she somehow got it to be men that were pregnant.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, I think we didn't do that. I think male Sims could get pregnant from alien.
Yeah, but
that's true.
I just think it was interesting that
No, my favorite one was you get a Sim pregnant. She has a baby. You lock the baby in the closet. The baby starves to death. You get a gravestone. You sell the gravestone for $10.
All right.
You could just.
I've heard of that one. Yeah.
You can just start cranking money that way.
Oh boy.
Absolutely. So come to Facebook. We Can't Stop Watching Murder Shows. Speaking of murder shows, we had a fun weekend adventure. We got to go to Michael Horse's garage sale.
Oh yeah.
Which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Michael Horse, of course, played Sheriff Deputy Hawk on Twin Peaks. which is one of your founding murder shows. But he is a very cool guy.
Yeah, totally.
Got an awesome picture of him. So that's a nice adventure for a COVID weekend. Let's go to Michael Horse's garage sale as he's moving from El Cerrito to somewhere else.
I think they're going to be in Palm Springs.
Right. Yeah. And then, so other shows we've been watching. So I've got 3 single-syllable shows I want to mention before we get into Atypical. First of all, Pose, Ryan Murphy's Pose. I run hot and cold on Ryan Murphy, but it's usually just kind of fun, lurid stuff like Ratchet or whatever. That's a little bit difficult to
American Horror Story.
American Horror Story. You don't really take it all that seriously. Pose is beautiful series.
It's a masterpiece.
Masterpiece cut all the way through it. And you really like Blanca.
Yes,
who's the
very
protagonist.
much.
She's the main character, essentially. And my character is Billy Porter.
Well, of course.
The category is NatterCast. I loved, Pray Tell is his character's name. I love Pray Tell's arc throughout that story. So we can highly recommend Pose. It's completed, so you can binge it and finish it. Can't quite finish it. You have to wait till the next season.
Well, also the next Emmys, it has several Emmy nominations.
Yes.
And as M.K. Rodriguez, who plays Blanca, is the first trans woman to be nominated for a lead in a TV show.
And that's
cool.
That's a good thing.
She's so amazing.
And what connects that to Atypical a little bit is one of the topics we'll be talking about tonight is representation.
Yeah.
Right? Atypical has a range of representation. They have neurotypical people playing spectrum characters.
Yes,
and they have spectrum actors.
And I'm going to name them.
And you're like, I shall name them. Yes. Anyway, so representation is an issue on Atypical as well. So it's nice to see Pose, truly representing. And speaking of woke is hysterical. If you guys are on Hulu, and if you know anything about San Francisco, it's a great show about based on a real life figure about an African American cartoonist.
And very clever use of animation.
Very clever use of animation. He's an African American cartoonist who's not very political or social or whatever, and he gets assaulted by the police. Yeah. And he begins hallucinating and kind of having his black consciousness rise up. So he self-wakes to the annoyance of his roommates. And it's really well done. It's like The Last Black Man in San Francisco meets Happy.
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, Happy being that sci-fi series with Christopher Maloney.
Right,
Yes.
Chris Maloney and Patton Oswalt. And that'll bring us over to our other show that we're going to want to talk about is Penguin Town.
Yeah, so the main event here is we started pairing shows and films together.
Yes.
For when you guys do the throwdowns where one takes one side. But tonight we're going to pair it like it's a fine dinner. So if you watch Atypical, we recommend pairing it with Penguin Town.
Absolutely pair it with Penguin Town. Yeah, it just fits perfectly.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
For those so Penguin Town is a pseudo-documentary series about Simonstown?
Simonstown.
Simonstown, South Africa.
Just south of
Cape Town. Where an endangered group of African penguins spends the summer, mating and having kids, and so they can go swimming off. And it's narrated by Patton Oswalt, and just great characterization, especially because penguins mate, and they have mating patterns that are very relatable to human beings, right? And so seeing all the tragedy and the comedy in their lives is a whole lot of fun. And so we can recommend that. And absolutely, just like you watch an Atypical, you watch a Penguin Town. Just, for those of us who are a little more on the harsher end of the scale, Sione and I think we've seen Hacks, half a dozen times all the way through? Sione? Hacks.
Oh my God. We're like, what do you want to watch tonight? I go, we could always rewatch any episode of Hacks.
Any episode.
And I'm not a big rewatcher. I usually like new things.
Right.
And the Hacks is just, I just have to see it every now and then.
It's fairly amazing. I think I'm blanking. It's Jean. What's her name?
Jean Smart.
Jean Smart. That's right. Jean Smart. And what I love about it is we're going to talk about the Assances, and the Assances are all HBO driven, right? So the reconnaissance was from True Detective and some movies, but whatever. And Jean Smart is definitely...
And this is also up for Emmys.
This is also for Emmys. But she's definitely maximizing the HBO potential because she was Mare's mom. And you like a murder show, Mare of Easton. So she was Mare's mom. She was in Watchmen. She's the comedian's daughter. And she's in Hacks. And so Jean Smart works a joke has just become like a category that ought to have its own Emmy. It's like, which joke did Jean Smart work best this year? Was it the girl who threw the brick, or was it the guy in the closet? Okay, that about covers, I think, what I had for sort of what we've been up to for the last little bit. Anything else we want to go over before we start rolling into Atypical? All righty.
Well, I did some research and found out what else the cast of Atypical appeared in between season 3 and 4. Now, starting off with Keir Gilchrist, he appeared in stuff like Castle in the Ground, Flashback, and Katie Says Goodbye. And I found out that he's also a death metal vocalist in 2 bands. Now, I looked up some videos of him, and it sounded pretty much like every other death metal song I've heard, which sounds something like... And then we go into a... where the drums and guitar are all over the place. And then they go... like some kind of tragedy just happened.
It's a tragedy in their throat.
Indeed. Yeah.
I think you have a future in death metal if you want one.
Yes, well, Bridget Lundy Payne, meanwhile, appeared in Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Which we never saw. I want to check that out.
Yeah.
I'm a Bill and Tedder.
Yeah, she played Bill. They played Bill's daughter, Billy, I believe.
Billy.
and of course, they're just like their dad. Real surfer talk and metalhead.
Oh, all right, yeah. Some Keanu and Alex Winter work. Right before the apocalypse, I was working in Chinatown, and they were filming Matrix 4, and so like everyone was trying to spot Keanu or Lana Wachowski, one or the other. Those were both considered high value spots.
Then we have Michael Rappaport, who had a guest appearance on The Simpsons. The episode's called Go Big or Go Homer.
Sounds like something you would say.
Yeah.
And then we have Jennifer Jason Leigh, who appears in a lot of horror/drama type stuff. Possessor, The Woman in the Window, Awake. She also appears in this Stephen King miniseries called Lacey's Story. It's on Apple TV Plus, I believe. And Nick Dodani, who plays Zahid. Let's see, he appears in this comedy about polyamory called Mark, Mary, and Some Other People. I'm not
that
quite...
sounds very San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where that is streaming, but I think it's been on the film festival circuit. But he was also recently in a film adaptation of Dear Evan Hansen, which is now wrapping production.
Okay.
It's in post probably, but it's going to come out like in,
what's that
7
about?
months maybe. Dear Evan Hansen is like a musical.
Oh, okay.
And they're doing a movie adaptation of it.
I could see him doing musical. Mm-hmm. He seems to have that kind of comedic rhythm.
Yeah. And then we have Jenna Boyd, who played Paige. I looked up, has she appeared in anything? And turns out hasn't really appeared in anything. But I found out that she's a skincare consultant for Rodan and Fields.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. She just seems to have good skin.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah, I trust her.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Fievel Stewart, who played Izzy, appears in this teen comedy called The Never List, which is, I think, on Prime and Apple TV Plus. And then we have Amy Okuda, who plays Julia. Now, I recently started watching The Good Place, and I spotted her in the second episode, and she's the lady who says that flying is like having 100 orgasms or something.
Right. Yeah, she is good.
I mean, I need to watch the rest of that show. I don't know if she appears in any other episodes, but...
I think you'd really like it. Yeah, especially because it deals with ethics.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, it's just everything is an ethics exercise on that show. It's chewy for a sitcom. Yeah.
So anyway, that covers what they did between seasons 3 and 4. And so when we last left them, Sam had just finished rescuing Zahid from marrying, that
Gretchen?
Yes, right. that super cunt. And they had a Vegas-style reuniting, of their homieship.
Right.
And then
They reaffirmed their homieship vows.
yes,
Yeah, that's right.
And then finally, Sam moves into a new place with Zahid.
The improbably well-apportioned.
Yeah. I don't remember my first apartments looking that nice.
No, and I had 3 or 4 other roommates. It was never just 2 of us.
Yes.
I think the fewest roommates I had there was 3 of us.
It's like, where's their money coming from?
And and our place, it looked like Dirk Diggler's apartment had deteriorated for 20 years. That's what we were in. Shag carpet everywhere. But their place looks really nice with the brick and the open concept and everything.
They each get their own room.
They each get their own whole room.
Yeah. Yeah, this leads us into episode 401, Magical Bird number 1.
Yes. Magical bird.
And it begins with, Sam narrating that, you don't know what will happen until it's over. Mm-hmm. And so, it begins with Sam and Zahid celebrating Sam's longest stay away from home at precisely 12:08 a.m., which is, I think, a reference to the time in season 2 when he went out walking in the neighborhood at night and was caught by a cop.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So Sam notices that Edison, his turtle, has dry eyes and panics, and later learns it's because Zahid was smoking weed around him.
He's paranoid and he has the munchies.
Yeah. And then a blackout happens because he didn't register the power account in his name like he was supposed to do.
Uh-huh.
And so gradually Sam is he's telling Paige the many reasons that Zahid's driving him crazy, and she suggests they come up with some rules. So he makes up some rules which, better accommodate his needs. I mean, for one thing, he's hypersensitive to apple crunching.
He's not hypersensitive to it. Zahid is crunching the apple 6 inches away from his ear.
Oh, okay.
I would have a problem. I'm not sensitive to that, and I would have a problem with that. How about you have to eat the apple, you have to be 8 feet away from me.
Okay.
That would be a better rule. I think that's more of a boundary than an imposition on someone else's choices.
Anyway, the list grows and grows until Zahid can't take it anymore. And Sam goes into the bathroom to sit in the tub to relax alone without taking a bath, obviously. But he accidentally locks himself inside. And so then it's Mom and Sis to the rescue.
And we have Chekhov's axe here.
Chekhov's axe, right? Yeah.
Well, actually, it's Zahid's that belongs to his grandfather or something.
Right, but we introduced it as a dramatic element. It's like something is going to get axed at some point here.
Yeah, and it turns out to be the bathroom door.
Bathroom door.
Yeah, it was very The Shining.
Yes, yeah, I think that was the reference.
Yeah, I guess so.
Right.
But anyway, Zahid eventually makes it up to Sam by getting a second trash can for the house. And, so they compromise with everything, and then they just sit in silence because...
Let me ask, where do you guys come down on the trash can debate? Because I think I had a pretty firm opinion on everything else. But I could see both sides of the trash can argument.
Well, I think
whether you want to have it under the sink, hidden away, less smelly, or away from that area because as it gets drippy and is annoying, you'd have it under the sink. So.
If there was room, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think I could accept that. What do you think, Guillermo?
Well, I think the more trash cans we have around, the better. Because then I always know where to
This is San Francisco. We can't afford it. 12,000. We have $12,000 trash cans that are being deployed.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Anyway, we just talked about Sam. Now let's talk about Paige. She gives Sam a housewarming present, which is called a money tree. And it's got strict watering instructions because, she's the plant expert. Right. Remember how she took care of those succulents?
Right.
So the scene where she suggests rules for Sam, I believe, is when she's in her damn potato costume at Sally's Sour Cream.
Well, she also hints that Sam should move in with her. That Sam doesn't pick it up at all.
I see. Well,
she says like, well, maybe you're with the wrong person. Maybe the right person's been in front of you this whole time. And she makes a little potato face look, and Sam gets none of it.
Yeah.
It just flies right over his head.
Well, yeah, whether or not it dawns on him is unclear.
Yeah, and then there's another thing coming up that completely flies over his head that he later on catches. So we're seeing the evolution kind of Sam's capacities for empathy and for thinking about the world from other people's points of view. Yeah.
Let's see. I've never lived with a roommate, but I've come close at times when others have stayed with me overnight at times. And I always hear stories of, roommates from hell, which always surprise me. I mean, especially with you, Sion. Like,
I've had some amazing ones, and I've had some pretty bad ones.
Yeah, it surprises me that, people I know that I've talked to act this way.
I've only ever really roommated with people that I grew up with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so or with maybe one other person, like we met in college or whatever.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
But yeah, so I never.
Well,
really
when I first met you, had that really cool one who was never there. What was her name?
Rachel.
Yeah, she was awesome.
Yeah, I've known her since I was like 16.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. Okay.
She was awesome because she was never there.
Yeah, she was always at a girlfriend's house.
She kept her room neat. But I gave her the big room. That was a mistake.
All right. Well, meanwhile, with Casey is now the only kid living with her parents. And so she consoles her mom in Sam's empty room. And, by now she's broken up with Evan, but still friends with him. And, she's hesitant to tell her dad about her relationship with Izzy because they're kind of a thing.
Yeah. Rappaport's character doesn't roll to me like somebody who would be shocked that his daughter was gay.
Yeah.
Maybe not his favorite thing or something like that, possibly some homophobia, but like the idea that it would be this incredibly difficult thing for him to handle seems a little bit out of scale, given that he's an emergency tech.
Yeah, but
he seems to be kind of he's got some nerves of steel. He can handle it.
And we learn why later on. Like we learn why he's kind of suspicious of Izzy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Casey also gets these pastry murder videos from Evan's sister Beth, and it's a spoof of online fads like the ice bucket challenge,
the mowing the cake.
Yeah, and I looked it up. Pastry murder videos are not necessarily a thing, and I don't know if it will be a thing, but you never know with today's generation.
It's the millennial version of boiling a bunny. Is lawn mowing a cake. Exactly.
Anyway, so Casey and Izzy both visit the GSA at Clayton U. Now, GSA stands for Gender and Sexuality Alliance, but I always thought it meant Gay Straight Alliance.
Right?
My sister was in that in high school. And,
you know what? They might have called it gender and sexuality, so they're not violating anyone's brand.
Well, yeah,
but they can still call it GSA.
Okay.
Yeah, we know the.
I think it's more inclusive.
We know the founder of GSA.
Mm-hmm.
She's married to Jason's first girlfriend.
Oh, nice. So during a group coming out storytelling session, Izzy responds enthusiastically to Erica's story. Now, Erica's the leader, and that concerns Casey a little bit because. Well, I'm guessing because she's not used to being out in the open yet.
Right.
And then at night, Casey goes on a run, then sees a blackbird painting on the wall, which, seems really inspiring to her. And that's where the episode gets its title, Magical Bird Number 1.
Magical Bird Number 1. And it looks entirely Banksy.
Uh-huh.
It's not Banksy. We find out later on who it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like a Banksy piece. So
Indeed.
I'm wondering if what they did there.
Uh-huh.
And I just want to make a couple of comments before we go on. At this point in the story, I really started to notice the not personality disorders, but like the everything's a spectrum, right? The direction toward different personality disorders that people have. And Casey is definitely obsessive compulsive. in a lot of ways, and her running is kind of an energy for that. And we later on see this various forms of drama in her life.
Do you think biting her nails is
biting her nails a bit of it, and her father blames her girlfriend, and her girlfriend does have a lot of drama in her life and is a little screwy, but very little of it blows up on Casey. She doesn't really screw up Casey's existence very much.
Yeah.
But Casey kind of, I think, seeks emotional drama because she uses that to push her running. Is that she's then when she doesn't have it, when things get a little more stable or even, then she's less inspired to be who she is, right? And she's less inspired to be an athlete or whatever. So anyway, avoidant personality or obsessive compulsive.
Yeah, well, she certainly breaks out of it when she uses Zahid's axe to rescue Sam from the locked bathroom.
That's not avoidant. Yeah.
No, she's not avoidant. She's always trying to bait people into conflict.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to. She's
she
not
remind you of anybody?
But that's the point. She thrives on the drama and the conflict,
she does.
so that she can run it off, right? And she just, but teenage girls, I guess.
Indeed.
There you go.
So meanwhile, Doug, we've been talking about him. He gets ready to train Evan on the job as an EMT, and you find out that he'd rather keep quiet while driving.
Yes.
So maybe that's a little avoidative.
Speaking of Matthew McConaughey, let's make the car an area of quiet contemplation.
He also really misses his friend.
Oh,
He misses his friend who's retiring.
his friend Chuck.
Chuck, and it keep building up to is this a Shane Black story? Is Chuck gonna get thrown off the top of a building? He keeps mentioning he's about to retire. That's never good.
Yeah, I mean that's like an '80s trope that we've all seen.
Exactly, especially if it's the black partner. That's like, oh my God, you're a dead man.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to get a read from you guys on this. How did you think Doug regards Evan? I kind of felt in some of those scenes, on one level, he kind of wishes Evan was with his daughter because then it would be easier for him. He would just have his
I think he sees him as
son-in-law works with him.
I think he sees him as a son.
Maybe. And
Because he's mentoring him. And
but I also think he doesn't want to be the go-between. So he's worried that Evan's going to have drama with Casey. So it's like, I'd rather have you guys just be together. Because he doesn't believe because he says, oh, you're together, you're apart, you're together, you're apart. And I was trying to get what he was soothing himself over on that, reassuring himself. And I think it's that he doesn't want to be in the position of having to proctor his daughter's relationship, and he just wishes she just had one with this guy, and he didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my thought.
Yeah, but Casey's kind of mad at him for getting in the middle of her and Izzy, of course.
Sure.
But they make up later, and Casey finally reveals her secret about the kiss. Meanwhile, we have Elsa, who is showing some restraint with Sam, but not so much with Casey.
Well, there's empty nesting going on here, right? So she's got Casey for another year, right?
Yeah.
Sam's moved out. She's got Casey for another year, and she wants to make the most of it. And I think Elsa also likes it that she knew something that Doug didn't know.
Oh,
Right. So she's like, I'm closer to Casey than you are about something.
Like she thinks that gives her street cred as a parent, or parent cred.
Family cred. Yeah. Elsa wants to be the source of truth in the family.
Yeah.
She wants people coming to her to find out what's going on.
Yeah, and she's the one who alerts Casey about Clayton Yu's GSA, which is a good thing. And we see her, FaceTiming Sam and begging him to come home while the power is out because of that blackout. And she kept his moving boxes, which greatly offends him because it shows mistrust in him. And it kind of makes me wonder if she caused the power outage. Like
she didn't.
We know.
But I could see she did like it.
She liked the power outage.
Yeah.
But she didn't cause the power outage. I have one note here from before. Is like as Sam was starting to get irritated by Zahid, he starts picking away at the corner of his neck. And in Penguin Town, when we see Junior having trouble with his molting, that reminded me of that.
Yeah, totally.
It's like okay, you have to accelerate your molting a bit.
Okay.
So it felt like he was emulating Penguin molting behavior in order to self-soothe with his confrontation with his roommate.
Well, maybe. Yeah, but when Sam finally gets rescued, Elsa relates the story of when she began living without her mom. And, she says that she kept the boxes, for herself because I'm not good with people leaving, she says.
Mm-hmm. The casting on Elsa's mom is perfect. Mm-hmm. It's an actress named Jenny O'Hara, who looks, to my eye, very similar to Janet Leigh.
Oh,
And there's at one point later on where she's forgets who Elsa is and says, "Oh, say hi to your mom for me."
Yeah, that happens.
And I thought that was
later.
an inside reference to Jennifer Jason Leigh's mom.
Oh,
because they cast somebody who she's younger than Janet Leigh, but looks. I'd say you could have her. She could have played Janet Leigh for sure. Yeah.
Anyway, now we can move on to 402, Master of Penguins.
Master of Penguins.
Which probably should have been the name of the series. I don't know. Anyway, so, it begins with Sam fixating on the eye of the penguin, and he doesn't notice Paige after, she sleeps over. But then he gets a letter from Denton where he goes, for college. He gets a letter that he may be on academic probation. And so he looks into it and asks Professor Judd, Sarah Gilbert in a returning role, to rescind the letter, but she makes a deal with him instead. It's like he has to interview 50 people on what they are masters of. And, she asks, what makes someone a master of something? And his subjects only include, his mom, and then Julia, which is her only appearance this season, and then, his one of his peers, Jasper, and then there's Bob, the manager from Tektropolis. So, he couldn't interview 50. He just couldn't take it.
Right.
But so instead, Professor Judd gives him a second chance, because she has some boxes to sift through for a massive data entry job. And so he has to do this at his mom's place. So, he helps Casey stay awake while doing the data entry. And he finds out something we all knew, what he's the master of, which is penguins, according to Casey. And speaking of Casey, she also gets a second chance, which I'll get into in a bit. First, we see the dorkship certificate that she sent Sam in the mail, because she's always, harping on him and stuff. Mm-hmm. Anyway, her parents say that they're here for her, of course, which is good. But, instead of doing her homework, she repeatedly just talks on the phone with Izzy and, helps her ride a bike at night. And she jogs at 4:30 a.m. and she's sleepy in the morning and tries to stay awake with Red Bull. And as a result of this repeated routine, she fails her trigonometry test. Mm-hmm. And so she has to deal with Vice Principal Patrick, who's played by Rizwan Manji from Schitt's Creek.
Oh, is that who that is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He talks to her and, lets her off with a warning. And so she also gets a second chance.
This character clearly thinks that he's in one of those 80s inspiring teacher movies. Mm-hmm. Right? Because he never rolls creepy, but he always rolls accommodating to everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like it feels like he thinks he's trying to really help them when he's really just sort of letting them off the hook constantly for things. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so she works with Sam. Sam tries to keep her awake. While he does the data entry. And so, in exchange for that, she, brings him Triscuits.
Right. He is not allowed to bring the box of Triscuits into the data room. Because Ilsa said they'll be attacked by ants. I have never seen an ant anywhere near a Triscuit. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
ants
really.
They like protein.
Mm-hmm. But anyway.
And sugar.
Sam didn't care about the issue that he was interviewing people about, but I did a similar survey in college, questioning the value of general education, which was an issue I did care about because, I felt frustrated at having to take all this general education that I didn't think I was going to use elsewhere in my my path. Mm-hmm. And, I interviewed 20 or 30 people maybe, and... yeah, it was interesting to hear some of their responses.
Yeah, I'll back you up on that. I actually went to UCLA. Mm-hmm. I had a very Casey experience. I was in a relationship, and I went to UCLA, and it was going to, mean we had to break up probably or whatever else. But I ended up in the engineering school, And I kind of had a Sam experience. I ended up in academic probation. It was really tough and everything else like that in the first year. And so I thought about transferring to a slightly easier major, but it would require me to move over to a different college that has general ed. And I was like, how much general ed do I have to take if I switch to letters and science? And it's like a year's worth. And it's like, no, the engineering school makes you take 2 general ed classes. It's like 6 weeks of your life or something like that. So I doubled down and fixed my grades and stayed in engineering so I could avoid having to take a lot of English and history and other things like that.
Okay, great. Anyway, meanwhile with Doug, this is where we learn that Chuck, his coworker, is about to retire, and he wants to start his own sourdough bread business.
Yes.
And Doug is, of course, disgusted by the smell of that starter, which is this yeast type formula. And so Chuck tells Doug to, you should be honest with Elsa about Megan, your involvement with Megan, because, at the end of season 3, he kind of broke it off with Megan because, Megan, of course, is the mother of one of Sam's peers. And he confesses to Elsa right at Chuck's front door as his retirement party is, starting.
Which is the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So meanwhile, with Elsa, she's going to a Zumba class with Kathy, who has this crazy claim that she can stop herself from sweating.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, she can control her perspiration. And Elsa clearly can't.
Yeah.
So they have her completely sweated. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then she runs into Megan,
of course,
Amber's mom, and later still she confronts Megan again while wearing black and seems kind of crazy stalker-ish, and tells Megan that, hey, we're going to Chuck's retirement party, and hey, I signed up for violin lessons alongside your daughter.
I told you, Elsa cannot stand to not be in the center of the action. Yep.
Speaking of centers, Paige, thinks there's a target on her back at work. And, we wonder, hey, is she fired? But to her surprise, she gets offered a manager position at Sally Sour Cream with a 3-year commitment. Yeah, so that's, I guess, a big win for her.
Maybe. But the 3-year commitment's pretty big when you're 19.
Yeah, they're doing it because they lose too many people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Yeah. You won't need a commitment from me if this is a good job.
Anyway, speaking of commitments, Sam goes to the aquarium where trainer Tim lets him meet Stumpy, the penguin he adopted, and he decides to take a big trip to Antarctica.
So this is the big story. This is the major arc for the season, is the Antarctica trip. Or for Sam, anyway.
Yeah. He's trying to stay committed to that. And that leads us to episode 403, You Say You Want a Revolution.
Yes. Before we get to that, so I want to talk about the Antarctica trip. I really... So, one of the things we talk about when we talk about the spectrum, as to quote the Birdman, is literalism versus metaphorical thinking, right? And later on, we're going to see Izzy's mom is far on the other end, right? She's where everything is a metaphor and for just whatever she wants to project on the world, right? And the Antarctica trip for me is this wonderful theme of this season, because it is one of those things that you can come up with crazy plans when you're 18 or 19 that you might not be able to fulfill till you're 30, right? But you try to get it done before you're 21 and that kind of thing. And to see Sam get one of those, it's like, oh, the Antarctica trip, that's not entirely realistic, Sam, from where you are, but it is realistic to get to where you could. So yeah. So I really enjoyed that mechanism. Also because I want to go to Antarctica.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've been talking about it a lot.
Yeah, before it melts completely, I want to see some of the ice down there.
Yeah, well, Sam isn't sure about how he'll get there because, it's super expensive. And he also learns that Tektropolis is closing. So how are he and Zahid going to pay the rent? So he's off on this money-making mission in a way. And so he sits at lunch with his peers, who are Jasper, Sydney, and Noelle. And they were all introduced in season 3, and they're actually played by people on the spectrum. Tal Anderson is great as Sydney because, she's real gung-ho.
Is she the entrepreneur one?
Yeah, she is.
Jason she was like a breakout star in this for us.
Yeah, I want to see her do more work.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And, she first appeared in episode 303 where, Sam meets his peer group at Denton. And, one of the things she says to him is, "You're cute."
Right. She's very direct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I love. So.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything is fungible for her. Everything boils down to, can you make money out of it?
Yeah, exactly. And so she suggests a side hustle. Like, for instance, she pays him for this penguin drawing he just did. And his friend Jasper suggests a garage sale. So they have a garage sale, and it's a success. But there's a miscommunication between Sam and Zahid about prices. Oh, 5 cents? I thought it was $5.
Dollars? I thought you said cents.
Yeah, the other way around.
They do not have the flair of entrepreneurial.
I'll have you know, I overpaid Michael Horst for his on
Sure.
purpose. I gave him extra. You should do that at a garage sale. Don't be exploiting people. If something is labeled 5 cents,
Yeah.
ask if this is correct. And give them 10 cents instead.
Yeah, because, the other option that Zahid suggests is a sperm bank.
Yeah, right.
I tried applying there once. And
Which is ironic given Zahid's condition that we'll be hearing about.
I tried yes, exactly. And I tried applying there once, and I don't think they accept people on the spectrum.
Really?
Really?
That's my impression anyway. But anyway, later, Sam tries to draw Abby, in his art class. And Abby, she also plays a big role in this season. She's played by Kimia Bapornia. And all of these people are on Instagram, and I'm going to tag them on this.
Very good, very good, very good.
So Abby suggests a fundraiser. And so the big fundraiser event happens at Sam and Zahid's place. And so Sam tries to persuade them to donate with a speech and a slideshow. And it makes me wonder, what the hell do they get in exchange for helping him? It just seems a little bit selfish.
Yeah, this is where he's starting to really go down into serious, tunnel vision selfishness.
Mm-hmm. Which can happen when you get a big project in your head.
Oh, yeah. But, he starts grabbing stuff that his mom owns to sell. And nobody gets mad. And I'm just like, dude.
Yeah, you're starting to see how his selfishness has been coddled over time, but he's forced to. They do turn it around.
Yeah,
he does notice Zahid. He does notice Paige. Ultimately,
yeah, his character grows. But,
he grows.
But this is where I was like, man, I'm really not liking this character right now.
Yeah,
but that's good storytelling.
Yeah.
But Sydney later gives him $100 after selling his penguin drawing at a higher price, and says that she'll help him get to Antarctica. So. One thing I have to commend the showrunners for is, having people on the spectrum drive the story.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're not just on display.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I do find. So, what do you think about this as someone yourself? On the spectrum. So, what I find is his name Gilchrist, the actor.
Yeah.
He's doing a good job with this character.
Yeah.
And it does seem spectrum-y in the sense of you're watching a television show, and here's how a spectrum television character would behave. And then what I found kind of interesting last season and now, especially this season, because the spectrum actors are so integrated into the story, they move the action so much, that there's a real difference between the two. It's very noticeable that Sam is not like them. Right. And they seem genuinely...
Yeah.
And they're all very articulate and charismatic, and so they work well as actors and everything else like that. But they seem more genuine because they are, and it kind of highlights that Sam is being played by a neurotypical actor, right? Who's portraying kind of just an awkward.
Yeah, there's a term for that. It's called crip face.
Crip face.
Yeah, my friend Anton has used that in some of his writing. It's when non-disabled actors play a somebody with an invisible disability.
Right.
It's sort of like what Sean Penn did in I Am Sam.
I Am Sam, yeah. The Tropic Thunder makes reference to that using language I won't repeat, but that was funny in the theater anyway. And it is true. It's like if you go all the way toward disability, it can perversely be like, no, we should have just had a representative actor here, and people are
exactly.
On the other hand, I don't think I would recast Sam. I think he's doing a great job. So,
and I found out from this interview with Rabia Rashid, the creator, she has experience with people on the spectrum, but they auditioned a lot of actors on the spectrum, but she says that Keir Gilchrist ended up being the right fit, and he was amazing. But they did cast Anthony Hawkes, who plays Christopher in the first and second season, and he was the character that he was like negative all the time.
Sure.
And I felt like just that snapshot, I don't think that's enough.
This season there was a lot more spectrum activity, but I just noticed the contrast when Sam was interacting with him. That he seemed different.
Yeah.
But my experience with people on the spectrum is they are very different from each other.
Could be, yeah.
I didn't see that.
You didn't see it that way? Okay.
All three of them were distinctively different from each other.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. The one guy's like a laid-back bear.
Right.
And then we have Miss Entrepreneurial, who should be on the Forbes magazine.
Right. Yeah.
And then we have Sam.
Well, actually,
who's selfish and worry-word.
Yeah.
And penguin obsessed.
Yeah, well, speaking of Forbes, there's a great interview with Tal Anderson, I believe, that I recently read. I think I sent it to you.
Yeah, there's discussion of how she grew up isolated socially. So she had created this really, amazing theatrical world with characters, and she was really into Disney, like you are. Just very rich in, acting things out, writing stories. That became her way to adapt.
Yeah, exactly.
Isolation.
Yeah. Anyway, back to 403. So Doug has this confrontation with Elsa. I think it's about Megan, obviously. And, he talks to Chuck because it's Chuck's last day on the job. And then by the end, we find out that Chuck's died.
Yeah.
Of course.
Because
it's his last day of retirement.
You could see that coming.
And he's the partner, Yeah, oh well. No, but to be fair, Danny Glover survives for like 5 movies. He never did actually die.
Yeah.
But he never retired. So
yeah.
He just kept saying he was going to.
But Elsa, meanwhile, she's more focused on Casey and trying to keep her in check in this episode. But yeah, with Sam's Antarctica idea, she just decides to let it play out. She'll just let Sam discover that on his own, that the trip is a bad idea.
So that's another thing we're seeing in all these characters, and it works well in television in general. Passive aggressiveness. Passive aggressiveness is great TV. It is great TV, and Elsa is incredibly passive aggressive. She'll sit back and let you make a mistake so that you'll come running to her. So
she's so codependent.
Of
passive
course.
aggressive. Yeah. Which goes together.
Yeah. Paige, meanwhile, tells Sam about her promotion. And so she goes into the big freezer at Sally Sour Cream and rearranges it, but then, thinks she's in trouble. But turns out she gets the keys to the castle.
Her manager is kind of weird.
Yeah, a little bit of a...
It's retail.
It's retail food. It's
Yeah. And so, she gives Sam her O magazines, which is a big source of inspiration. But, she schedules a celebratory date with Sam, but, gets pissed when he postpones this date so that he can train. And, it is so painful to see Sam rejecting Paige and placing himself over everyone else so much.
And it's like he's torturing her. It's like, put her out of her misery.
It's like, I keep wondering why there's so many moments like this, because God forbid that this should shape someone's view of people on the spectrum and cause them to think, hey, They're a-holes.
Well, I hope it doesn't, because this is neurotypicals do this too.
At this age.
At this age, we become very selfish.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's about defining yourself, and it is healthy in a certain way. It's a healthy form of narcissism.
Yeah.
But dicking around, not knowing if you're into someone or not, and stringing them along, and this is classic early 20s.
I think there was some concern about that, because later on he is right on the nose about the lesson that he learned about caring about other people's things.
Yes.
So I think it's pretty clear. It has nothing to do with Spectrum. It has everything to do with Sam Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when Sam holds the fundraiser, Paige angrily lists the reasons why Sam shouldn't go, thus breaking him. Because she knows about what he doesn't like, and how he wouldn't
cold.
And he can't stand a certain kind of clothing.
Yeah, just the whole trip's going to be uncomfortable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, we find this growing up, is that Sam knows a lot about Antarctic penguins, but he's mostly projected his fantasies onto it. Uh-huh. He doesn't know the reality of Antarctica, any more than any of us who haven't been there. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what it takes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, speaking of clothing, Casey, meanwhile, gets a citation for violating the Clayton Prep dress code, wearing the wrong socks. And so Izzy introduces a petition against the dress code, and the petition gets denied. So Izzy suggests starting a protest. And Casey eventually warms up to the protest idea, even after Coach Crawley tells her not to risk it. Hey, you want to get into UCLA, right? So Elsa talks to Casey about rebellion and mentions that, hey, you used to wear Sam's old baby clothes. So she gets inspired. And then she takes Sam to the freezer at Sally Sour Cream to train him on surviving the cold and the
squishy pants.
Snow pants.
Yes. And the snow pants. Well, that was it. He didn't like the Gore-Tex sound of Gore-Tex material. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, the protest is a big gender swap at Clayton. And
I love that it was a full gender swap. It wasn't just Bob Fosse, women in pants.
Yeah.
It was the guys were wearing skirts. That was one.
Yeah, they have no shame in doing that, I think.
No, of course not.
At that age.
Oh, we did that that's exactly the kind of stuff we did. Mm-hmm. You try to enforce a dress code, good luck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's the revolution that gives the episode its title.
Sure.
But, the title of episode 404 is Starters and Endings. Now, I think that's pretty clever because it has to do with...
Sourdough starter.
Yes, and Doug dealing with the grief of
losing Chuck.
Yeah, he's like, I don't have a best friend. He's kind of in denial. Mm-hmm. And, he finds the starter in the fridge, but at work, Evan gives him some flour to go with it, but he's like, I don't want any. He's rejecting Evan's attempts to, open up to him. Mm-hmm. But then Elsa throws out the starter, and Doug, chides her and saying, hey, it's all I had left of my dead friend. And then Sam yells at him, and he finally lets loose with the tears. Mm. And so, later on he makes up with Sam and, shows him how to pitch a tent.
Which is interesting here. This is one of the complaints I'm having here. If you're going to Antarctica, you're not going to be pitching your own tent. Very much out on the surface. You're going to be going from one constructed shelter to another.
That tent ain't going to do nothing.
That tent ain't going to do jack shit. Mm-hmm. Even in the summer, that tent ain't going to do jack shit in Antarctica. One good storm and you're dead. You're just dead.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Sam, he uses Paige's don't go list to start his own to-do list. And so she suggests the student activities board. And so at Denton, he gets an Antarctica pamphlet for an arts program down there.
Mm-hmm. So now there's a program you can assign to that helps him with the expenses.
Yeah. So first he has to learn how to pitch a tent because he says shelter is the most important thing to survive. And so Sydney, who's a former Girl Scout, suggests a bivy sack, for a sleeping bag.
Sure.
And he tries sleeping outside in one. Zahid gives him a set of walkie-talkies, I believe, for this. But then he sees a possum's eyes, and he cowers, and he runs back inside. But later, Doug shows him how to pitch a tent and encourages him to take an official leave of absence from school. And, it kind of reminds me of the fight that I had to do to get a leave of absence from working at Amazon, which is a whole other story. But anyway, like Doug, I also lost a friend this year, and it took me a while to really kind of grieve, I guess. Because, after the memorial gathering that we had, I felt kind of sad afterwards. But, prior to that, I was, in a better mood, like looking forward to seeing people and sharing the stories about me and Colin. And later on afterwards, the sadness really crept in. But anyway, Elsa, she goes to Chuck's funeral along with Doug. And Doug eventually opens up to Elsa like, hey, he was my best friend. And they actually have a funeral for the starter itself.
The starter itself, yeah. That was pretty cool. A little wreath of sourdough.
Yeah. Paige, meanwhile, apologizes to Sam, and she blames Petunia, which she calls her angry alter ego. I suppose that this also comes out like while she's driving.
We're getting into like Fight Club territory.
Yeah.
With Paige.
Anyway, so she gives him some spiked boots, which he doesn't like. The boots stay stuck in the floor for the next few episodes. So Casey, meanwhile, gives her a hard time, and, Paige keeps insisting, hey, I'm not a Gretchen. I'm a Lady Shackleton. Right. I'm helping Sam prepare like Ernest Shackleton's wife helped him prepare.
Right.
Etc. Casey, meanwhile, is having a little bit of trouble at school, a little bit compared to, I guess, Izzy, because Vice Principal Patrick scolds her and Izzy about the protest. And, later on, she confides in Izzy and says, I wanted to get kicked out because, Clayton is starting to drive her crazy, I guess. Sure. And Izzy gets suspended, but she doesn't. And both of them think it's unfair, but Izzy thinks it makes more sense.
Yeah.
Izzy has a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy going with sabotaging herself, right? Because she's obviously in a position, she's relatively intelligent and she's attractive. She's in a position where she could succeed. And she comes right up to these lines and sets up things like this protest or whatever in such a way that she's going to end up being suspended or blamed. Yeah. It's like what you do with the protest is you call a reporter first. And then you make it a public thing. And then that way, they won't punish you or whatever. And then when you meet her mom, it all clicks. It clicks where the sabotaging is coming from, and it's pretty sad. Relationship.
But meanwhile, Casey gives Paige a hard time and puts her through a series of tests. Like first, she has to find a dandelion.
Oh yeah, just torturing her.
Yes. Then find a live pig.
Yeah. And then
She succeeds in both of these, but then Casey tells her to stand in those boots for 3 days. And finally, Paige stands up to her, which is what Casey had coming to her.
That pig was cute, though. That was a cute pig.
Yeah. Got this whole Charlotte's Web vibe going.
Yeah, with little feet in front of him and everything. Yeah, it was a really cute one.
Yeah.
Had eye lines. Good eye lines on the pig.
So that's the ending of Starters and Endings, and so we can now move up to 405, which is called Dead Dreams. This begins with Sam narrating that animals are better at adaptation. I think he's admitting that he's had some trouble with adapting. And so he gives his family a breakdown of his trip plan, which is to document the essence of penguins at Halley Research Station.
And that's a throwback to when he was in that drawing class.
Yeah. Now, I found out that Halley Research Station, was established in 1956 to study the Earth's atmosphere, and measurements from Halley led to the discovery of the ozone hole in 1985. And as of 2020, the base has been left unmanned through winter since 2017 due to concern over the propagation of an ice crack and how this might cut off the evacuation route in an emergency. And the Halley Bay Important Bird Area, with its emperor penguin colony, lies in the general vicinity of the base. So that's where Sam's interest comes in.
Sure.
Yeah, and so the question is, will they change? Can they change? And Zahid wants to help out Sam as a medical consultant, and he even wears penguin scrubs for Sam.
That's so cute.
At the doctor's office.
So he is still my favorite character.
Of course.
And then the second would be, I just forgot her name, Sydney.
Yeah. Anyway, Sam is scared of needles, obviously. And, he gets mad when, Mom doesn't prepare his special Antarctic dishes that he's, trying to get used to eating. Well, first of all, he finds out about this Australian explorer named Niles, who was recently found frozen dead.
From like the 50s or something.
Yeah. And, in his room, later on, he sees a vision of Niles who's, saying, hey, don't go.
So Sam needs to not see The Thing.
Yeah.
That's not a movie for Sam.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise he'll start seeing R.J. McCready haunting him.
Yeah. So then he decides not to go on the trip and passes on the Antarctic food when his mom makes it later. But then after a pep talk from his mom, he eventually adapts and then gets his blood drawn and then reveals how Niles really died, which is food poisoning. Paige, meanwhile, appears in one scene. She writes letters of gratitude to famous women as Sam draws a whale.
Yes. Well, that's some couple. They're at the table together, right? In that scene, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I find this episode believable because, I don't adapt to things instantly. I mean, it takes me a while sometimes, but, eventually I come through. But I keep wondering, who Sam is talking to because, he's in a room by himself. And in season 1, he's it's mostly, we see that he's talking to his therapist. Now that he doesn't have a therapist, I keep wondering if, does he have a new one? And, Rabia Rashid says that because Sam can't always communicate, that she can cheat and get into his head with voiceover.
Yeah, and the whole show is voiced over, so we don't need him in therapy constantly. But especially around this trip, because it's gone from being this fantasy, like going to the moon or Mars or something like that, to something realistic. And that's he's in that phase of life where a bunch of what you thought being an adult would be, you get confronted with the reality of it. And Antarctica is a symbol for that for him.
Yeah, but speaking of symbols, Elsa reminds Sam of how often he used to draw this character called Little Dude. And, learn to adapt in his own way. And, she says to Doug, I'm trying my best, because she's concerned that Sam's dreams might die, and she uses her peers in the TARP group as examples. She talks to her friend Kathy, who's kind of on Doug's side, and she adds, we'd like you to take a break, which is a code word, I guess, for bye, Felicia.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I thought that was really bitchy.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's maybe if Sam can adapt, maybe she can too.
Right.
That's the point, I think, of the episode. But anyway, Little Dude kind of reminds me of a Don Hertzfeldt character.
Yeah.
Rejected.
Right. So, low self-esteem, dejected.
No, Rejected is the name of Don Hertzfeldt's probably most popular short film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the one with the banana character and the guy with the big spoon.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all over the place in the early 2000s.
All right. Rejected. Mm-hmm. Don Hertzfeldt, you say?
Yes.
All right.
Anyway, Casey. So she's dealing with Izzy, who says, that her mom expects her to get kicked out of school.
That's the expectation of being kicked out, the self-fulfilling element. Yeah.
Yeah, so they meet Izzy's mom, Sasha, who's into tarot, astrology, spiritual stuff. She reads Casey's tarot, which reveals adventure, hope, positivity. Then reads Izzy's, which reveals darkness. And, needless to say, Izzy is jealous that her mom loves Casey more than her.
One of those cards was the Bolton banner from Game of Thrones. It was the flayed man. It's okay, I guess things aren't going to go well for you.
Yeah. But yeah, they still support each other, and, Izzy will still be part of Casey's support system. And Casey, corrects Izzy's physics test.
Yeah, that was bold.
Never do that without telling someone.
So meanwhile, Doug gives Sam a Swiss Army knife. And, he spends most of the episode trying to get Elsa to change her mind about the trip, to accept Sam's goals no matter what they are.
Right.
And then later on, she gives him a muffin.
Well, and Doug is also is it at this point where he's starting to realize how many vacation days he has.
Well, no, that comes later.
Does it come later? Okay, yeah.
But anyway, Episode 406 asks the question, "Are you in fair health?" And it starts with Sam narrating an animated sequence about the history behind his penguin fascination, and it's all part of a graphic novel essay that he's writing. So, is Zahid fit to take care of Edison the turtle? Sam obviously doesn't think so after Zahid steps on a grapefruit.
That was pretty funny.
So he looks for potential caretakers and finds Paige because, she goes the extra mile to rescue the plant that she gave Sam, which he left on the street.
Right. That's Paige for you.
Yep. So he remembers that Zahid needs to go back to the doctor and exits.
I think we skipped over a one thing that I wanted to catch, which was that we were talking about like Sam's kind of selfishness and growing empathy.
Yeah.
He backtracks on the conversation and realizes that Zahid is sick. He isn't right. He doesn't get told. He's like, wait a minute.
Right. He remembers.
What do you mean you had to do this and that? So that's showing him starting to rise out of this self-centeredness.
Yeah.
Is that he took the moment to realize that his friend was in some medical trouble, and to follow up on that himself. So that's like points for Sam. He's gaining ground.
Yeah, exactly. And so he joins Zahid at the hospital and learns that Zahid might have testicular cancer.
Right.
That's a real turning point. It's like, I thought I had cancer once, but luckily it was just an easily removable vein. And I also noticed that Paige tends to put others' needs above her own.
Right.
Which is what Sam's learning to do, I think.
Well, and that's what, because Elsa's codependent, Paige is codependent. Putting other people's needs ahead of yourself is one of the definitions of codependency.
Yeah.
Elsa's a lot more chronically bizarre about it because she happens to be a mother. Right. And Paige has to act it out through school and work and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Elsa's baking so many pies in this episode for Izzy and for Casey. And so Izzy invites Elsa to the PTA meeting. And so Sasha comes by the place to pick up Izzy, and Elsa immediately doesn't like her. So Elsa goes to the PTA meeting and realizes that Izzy needs help.
Right.
And she later gives a pie to Sasha and says, "Hey, be nicer to your kid."
Right. Well, Doug says, "It sounds like your mom." And as soon as Elsa realizes that Izzy's mom is like her mom, that begins this whole element of like rescuing Izzy, because she's rescuing her younger self. In some respect, she thinks, from a checked out narcissistic mom who projects her problems on you.
Right.
Which is what we gather Elsa's experience was.
Yeah. And Doug, meanwhile, tries to coach Casey while she struggles to train for track. And, he later on admits that he doesn't like Izzy because she's a drama queen. Izzy is, meanwhile, suspected of cheating on the test after getting help from Casey, and that kind of causes a conflict. And, Sam tells her that, hey, you help too much. You're like your mom.
Right. You help too much.
And then she later makes a collage card for Izzy, plus a more positive tarot deck.
Yes, the Slurpee card.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, I'm a protector, she says. And, that's also how I see myself sometimes.
Yeah.
But, the biggest bombshell happens at the very end when Gretchen hooks back up with Zahid.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Talk about drama.
I do like the energy that Gretchen brings to the show. Let me just put it that way. I like her and Zahid, I want to see lots of crazy there.
Yeah, so that leads into episode 407, Channel the Cat. Now, Sam tells Zahid to obviously, hey, break up with her. But Zahid assures him, hey, we're purely sexual. We're just fuck buddies.
It's just sex.
And Sam, meanwhile, consults Jasper and Sydney. And Sydney gives Sam an art assignment, which is to draw a friend's cat.
Right.
And so he tries to draw the cat, but he's bothered by all that banging going on.
Right. And he ends up with like this Salvador Dali looking, bizarre mustached cat. Yeah.
With a cactus beside it, I think.
With a cactus. Yeah.
And so Sid is not pleased by this drawing of the cat. And so in order to concentrate, Sam swears off sex to Paige's detriment. And, of course, he's very bothered when Gretchen eats his hash browns and leaves a note. And then later on, in true cunt fashion, she breaks up with Zahid via text while he's at the doctor.
No good.
Yeah. And so, Sam reassures Zahid about the forthcoming operation and says, hey, I'll even drive you home. So that's a pretty interesting part. But
He has to learn how to drive. Mm-hmm. So that's another. They do these things pretty well. Another adult transition. Now it's one that Sam should have had a couple years ago. Okay, fine. But he's learning to. So in the evolution of Sam's empathy, he's learning to drive primarily to help his friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where he is switching up.
He's switching up. He's like, my friend needs my help, and I have other reasons to have this skill, but this is the reason to get it today.
Yeah, that's when I was like, yay!
Yeah, that he's getting it. He's getting what he needs to do.
Yeah, I mean, myself, I try my best not to do a quick 180. If I know if it's going to disappoint people.
Right.
Like, it's upsetting when he, blows out the candle. It's kind of a slap in the face. But Paige, meanwhile, she wants more sex before Sam leaves, but, he has to concentrate on the cat picture. He has to channel the cat. But Gretchen, meanwhile, gives Paige some advice. Hey, send a tit pic.
Right.
Or channel your own sexuality in a way.
At least she sent a PG-13 pic.
Well, yes.
Could have been worse.
But it does get worse because she accidentally sends it to the rest of the family.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like it could have been a whole lot worse if you're going to have that accident, than a fully clothed backside.
Yeah, with Romantic Friday underwear.
Okay, so it's PG-13, I said. Maybe PG-15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, she has to publicly apologize to, the parents and then to Sam. But later on, she dresses like a penguin and does the walk.
Yes. So we had an evening of Joe Cocker the other night.
Oh, really?
And one of his greats from the 80s is you can leave your hat on.
Oh,
And so when Paige does the penguin reveal and she starts to flop around, I had you can leave your hat on going, and then all of a sudden she's doing penguin flap.
Yeah.
And it didn't quite match up.
I know.
Until I realized that's how Joe Cocker moves. He penguin flapped. So.
Indeed.
You can leave your hat on.
Elsa, meanwhile, gives a pie to her mother named Lillian. And, she loves it. And they share some memories. And, she tells her mom about Sam's trip plan. And as she leaves, Mom says to Elsa, say hello to your mother for me.
See, that's where I think, first of all, that's the tragedy of dementia. But also, I think that's an inside joke on Janet Leigh.
Okay.
Yeah. But there you go. I liked it.
Yeah. Casey, of course, is still, biting her nails, and now she has, Band-Aids on her fingers. And she gives her dad some new sourdough starter, but they're at an impasse over Izzy, of course.
Right.
And Izzy, meanwhile, really does get kicked out.
Yep.
And so they both go to Erica's party, where Izzy expresses, jealousy of Casey, in subtle ways. Because Casey gets a UCLA letter of interest, and, she confesses to, helping Izzy cheat, but VP Patrick absolves her.
Right.
Maybe Izzy's right. Maybe all this white privilege going around is...
Izzy is not the athlete that Casey is. Mm-hmm. That's what the privilege is.
Okay.
Right. This school knows that Casey goes to UCLA and does well, then she's some kind of legacy and everything else, and they're not going to let her fuck up.
Yeah. And so at the track meet, Casey sees somebody wearing a UCLA cap, like, uh-oh, is it a recruiter? And so she remains in place and loses on purpose.
Sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah. But Doug, meanwhile, I noticed that he's okay with Sam's trip, but not okay with Casey's life. I'm like, what gives?
Casey's his daughter, and she's younger.
Uh-huh.
But Sam has his issues as well, so you would think they would be about even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of how, my sister felt ignored at times when, my parents seemed to focus a little more on me because I had a few more needs. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the aftermath of losing on purpose continues in the next episode, Magical Bird number 2, and Casey takes over the episode narration for this one because Well, I think it's more her episode than anything.
She's becoming the main character in a lot of ways. Sam has had a lot of his arc. Yeah.
So, she's telling the story of Mighty Mo, who was a track athlete who had it all, but threw it all away because their worry was contagious, I think.
Right.
And so as she stays in bed, we see the aftermath of the track meet. She walks away and visits the bird painting, and Izzy sees her afterwards, and Casey's just breaking down. People expect too much from me. And then she sees another bird painting later on when she's teaching Sam to drive, and skids to a stop, causing Sam to spill his milkshake,
Yes.
reference to season 2.
Yes.
And the paintings are by Sam's friend Abby, who, went along with them in the exciting season 3 finale.
I really like Abby. I think she's just so straightforward and great.
Yeah, they're giving her more of a background, too. And
She's Banksy.
Yeah,
Abby is Banksy. That's what it is.
indeed.
Yeah.
So Casey decides to quit track, and Izzy's not pleased about this. But meanwhile, Casey and Abby become close. Izzy, meanwhile, wants to break up with Casey because she took Doug's words to heart, because earlier Doug blames Izzy on, Casey's recent academic lags.
Right. Which is not really fair. I mean, it was not. Casey is a drama queen, but she doesn't have that. She didn't have that effect. I'm sorry, Izzy is, but she didn't have that effect on Casey.
Yeah, I mean, Casey made all those decisions. Izzy didn't make any decisions for her.
Right, exactly. Casey has been the master of her fate in ways that she's not totally prepared to admit.
Yeah, and on that note, she finishes telling the story to Coach Briggs at her old alma mater, Newton High, and Coach Briggs says, "Hey, welcome back."
Yeah.
So, she decides to go back to Newton.
All right.
Meanwhile, with Sam and Zahid, Sam doesn't really know how to drive, so Casey teaches him. And the first rule of driving is you can't do it with your eyes closed.
Close. Yeah. What are you doing, Sam?
Yeah, he learns he hates driving, but Casey talks him back up to it. It's like, hey, do it for your friend.
Right.
And then, later on, he actually finds Beth's lost dog.
And fails to hit it. Because he's going at 10 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, he gives the dog back to Evan and then tries a driving video game. And that's, I think, is a good kind of way to get used to driving and, trying not to crash.
Having things flying at you. The notion that stuff is going to fly at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. They used to have those simulators when we were in driver's ed. They were basically Grand Theft Auto.
But like with an orange or green,
Really simple
like
computers.
4-bit screen.
No. They weren't. This was from like the 60s, so it was a film you would watch. And it was a really simple computer that would that could tell whether you made the right move at a given time or not. It was a yes. It was a yes/no simulator. Did you do it right or wrong?
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the episode has like a tender ending with Sam driving alongside Casey as she jogs.
Yeah.
And Zahid also starts a support group called Guys Who Cry.
Very good.
That reminds me of Fight Club.
Guys who cry. Yeah. Bob had
Yeah.
bitch tits.
Yeah.
Right.
All those support groups they were hooked on.
Right.
And the tears.
Anyway, now we're going up to episode 409, Player's Ball, because Zahid is the player, obviously, and he's about to lose a ball.
Yep.
And so, things are winding down in the show now, and, Bob gives an announcement on the closing day of Tektropolis, and Sam realizes he needs to exercise his hippocampus in order to survive Antarctica. And, he tries to eat sardines and gets used to loud music and, tries dancing. And Zahid, meanwhile, throws a party for,
For his testicle.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so during the party, Sid and Jasper join Sam in his room and, they study German.
Right. to relax.
Yeah.
to self-soothe a little bit. Let's study German. And then Paige is like, I want to learn German. I hate my job.
Yeah, that's interesting. And meanwhile at the party, Casey socializes with Paige and Abby and, learns that Izzy's not coming because Izzy confronts her, when she's packing her locker. And then Casey tells off Doug for, hey, fuck you for interfering with my love life. Mm-hmm. So she's trying to chill at the party, and, she joins Abby's hot dog crew.
Right, the hot dog crew.
And Abby later gives her a bird tattoo. Like the magical birds she did on the wall.
Right.
I thought that was a nice moment. Meanwhile with Paige, the manager job is going great, but she learns she'll have to wear that damn potato costume again because the regular person got injured. Yeah, so she has to deal with that. And so at the party, she gives Sam some mittens, and she gives Zahid a pillow. And, she feels like things are changing for everyone except her.
Right. And she's getting locked into a 3-year potato commitment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then, meanwhile, Elsa has a chance to, redeem herself by planning Zahid's party. Mm-hmm. And at the party, she gets a call and learns that the Antarctica program got canceled because not enough people showed up.
Right.
And she almost tells Sam, but Zahid tells him instead, which really pisses him off.
Right. Well, because it's like, why did you even know? It's not that you didn't tell me immediately or whatever, but it's like, well, how did you even know? And it's because you were interfering with my plans. Mm-hmm. And he says, I would have not even have known, if you hadn't have. And she's like, I just called up to ask about the luggage,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but, Sam hides in the empty, deserted Tektropolis. And Casey and Zahid visit him, and, they all have a real tender moment together. Casey finally comes out as bi.
I like how he's like, of course you're bi. Mm-hmm. You've had both a boyfriend and a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Do not trouble me any further with your sexual awakening. Uh-huh.
I'm not confused. But you might be.
You might be confused, but it's very clear to me what you are.
Yeah.
so, okay, Sam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I once signed up for a filmmaking course that got canceled because not enough people signed up. And, that was a little upsetting to me, but I didn't find out until right then and there when I got to the location when the door was locked.
Oh, no.
Meanwhile, I noticed that Elsa has a puzzle piece on her phone case, her iPhone case. And I'm thinking, hey, she's one of those moms.
The jigsaw mom.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I looked up, the puzzle piece, and I found out that it goes back to 1963, and it was created by Gerald Gasson, who was a member of the National Autistic Society in London, and the board believed autistic people suffered from a puzzling condition, and they adopted the logo because it didn't look like any other image used for charitable or commercial use.
Okay.
And I noticed also that one of Sam's notebooks has
Doesn't Autism Speak to? That's their thing, right?
Yeah, and Autism Speaks obviously
Has the puzzle pieces.
Yes, but they also are known for some very bad things.
Yeah, I've in reading up on them.
Yeah.
Some people consider them like a hate group.
Well,
because they're trying to cure it? Or?
Yeah, they're trying to cure it and also prevent autistic people from being born. Hmm. And there's a Facebook group that has more info on that than I do. It's called Boycott Autism Speaks. I think I joined it recently. But anyway, that's how I found out about the puzzle piece, where it comes from. Yeah, Doug, meanwhile, thinks everyone's against him, especially Casey. But then later on, he finds Elsa's mom at the bus stop and brings her home. And I thought, well, at least they gave him something to do in this episode.
Right.
Yeah, but now we're coming to the finale.
The finale?
410, Dessert at Olive Garden.
Yes.
So, this kind of circles back to the first season in a way. First, Sam finds out that he was the only applicant for this Antarctica program. And Professor Judd offers him a trip to Alaska. Hey, they both begin and end with A.
It's only literally on the other side of the planet from where your interest lies.
Plus, you can see Russia from Sarah Palin's house.
But it's not the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he's not up for it. He also hates the classes he signed up for. So now he's packing away all his Antarctica-related paraphernalia, says goodbye to Stumpy the penguin at the aquarium. But he still can't stop drawing penguins and stuff. And Abby notices this and tells him, hey, it's okay. Just go nuts. Get it all out of your system.
YOLO.
Meanwhile, Zahid feels better after his surgery, after it's been a week. He meets a new neighbor in the same building named Honey and realizes he's off of his game. Like, did I have a bad ball?
Yes, my dad had a bad ball. Was my cancerous testicle my bad personality? And Sam's like, probably not.
Yeah, well, Paige, encourages him, hey, this is what people do when they go on dates. They talk to each other.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a great moment between those two.
Right, she throws, like, I mean, to the point where I thought that it was a little bit off, because I thought that scene was a fantasy. Because she throws every double entendre you can imagine at him.
Indeed.
Right. And then
he catches it. It's like, oh, God, why didn't I say that?
Right, exactly. And it's like, okay. But then she did want to sit with him for an hour and talk. So she's clearly not just looking to jump whoever comes to the door.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, okay.
Yeah, Paige, meanwhile, in the last episode, she quit her job at Sally's Sour Cream and just went ballistic and...
Right. She starts pounding on the...
Trashing the place.
Trashing the place, yeah.
And holds up her middle fingers. And, she was inspired by a picture of Casey's bird tattoo.
Yeah, just like in Woke. Fuck butter and toast. Or toast and butter. Yeah.
These are my two birds.
These are my two birds. They're toast and butter.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so she's proud of what she did, and she takes back her own magazines and shows the letters she got back from the inspiring women who wrote back.
Right.
And one of those letters is a job offer in Georgia, which is Habitat for Humanity.
That's cool.
And,
Yep.
decides to turn it down because of Sam.
Right.
And later on, at Olive Garden, they finally make it to dessert, which shows some growth on Sam's part.
Right. That's the dessert at Olive Garden is the symbolic growth into maturity for both of them emotionally.
Yeah. Anyway, he invites her to Antarctica with him and compliments her on the support that she's given him from, that we saw in past seasons. And, hey, you go ahead to Georgia.
Yeah, so this is where he starts with come with me to Antarctica and then realizes you've done what you've done for me. He says out loud, after what you've done for me, what I can do for you is not stand in the way of you going to Georgia. Because this is going to fulfill you. This is going to make you a better person. Right, yeah.
Yeah. And, suggests they break up for a while. But it ends on a positive note, I think.
Between the two of them, definitely.
Yeah, that was really healthy.
That felt like a realistic
And
19-year-old relationship.
Caring for, because I had to give that kind of stuff up when I went out of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, another thing I like is that some people might ask, like, hey, why didn't Sam end up dating somebody like Sydney? And I think that would send the message that people on the spectrum should only date their own kind, which is not the message that I think the showrunners want to get across.
No,
I mean...
Well, and that doesn't really make sense because there's so much diversity among people on the spectrum. It's like, what do you mean? They're like all the same?
Well, you also have to have the commonality. I mean, you don't just date because you're on the spectrum, both on the spectrum.
That's not...
Yeah, because he has commonality with Paige in a lot of ways. Now, they're very different in a lot of ways, and the relationship might not work out. But Paige is a lot like Elsa, which is, and we haven't seen Paige's father, so I don't know how that thing works for her. But there you go.
Yeah, that would be something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Casey, meanwhile, she and Izzy have a heart-to-heart, followed by getting it on. And back at Newton, Casey is reunited with her friend Charisse.
That's her best friend from her childhood.
Right.
And, she's also friends with Beth again, evidenced by this T-shirt that Beth gave her.
Right, the Beth T-shirt.
And, she tells Mom, no UCLA, Denton maybe, to be near Sam. And Elsa invites Casey over to the rest home where she's thinking of putting her mom with dementia. But really, it's a ruse. She's trying to trick Casey into meeting this recruiter from UCLA.
Right. It's typical Elsa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so typical Elsa.
But it turns out that Casey and Izzy both meet the same recruiter, Emily, and whether either of them get into UCLA is uncertain. It's left up in the air. So I think that's probably a good idea because...
Yeah. Well, if they're going to do another season, I'm not sure, right?
It's like no matter who gets in, we still support each other.
Right. That was the cool.
Yeah, that's the important message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still, whoever gets in, we both get in. If one gets in, whatever, we support each other. Or if neither of us get in, we support each other. How about that?
Meanwhile, with Doug, he has this recurring dream about, playing tennis with Chuck.
Right.
And at work, he's annoyed at Evan's slow eating. And then it's at this point when he remembers he has 54 vacation days saved up.
Right.
And, he goes to the aquarium with Sam and says, hey, I want to come to Antarctica with you. Because Sam, he decides to go on the trip after all. Because who needs a program? He's got the money he needs, probably thanks to Sydney. Yep. That's a little bit unclear, but we've got some clues.
A little unrealistic, but we'll go with it. He got $20,000 over the course of...
10 episodes?
Over the course of the school year? Okay, and he works at Best Buy?
Techtropolis, which just closed.
So Sydney must be pretty good at this. Yeah. Or maybe Doug has got some resources.
Yeah.
Well, I've always remember we've had that discussion. So he's an EMT. They don't get paid much. She's a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. How do they afford that big, nice house?
It's haunted.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes total sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
There are a lot of rich white people in these Netflix shows, I noticed.
Yeah, rich white working class people. That's the thing. There's plenty of rich white people in the world. Not a lot of them are, single income EMT families with special needs kids and an athletic kid who needs a lot of support. It's
or goes to private school.
That can be, or goes to art school. That can be expensive. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Anyway, so Sam, meanwhile, looks through his old journals and sees a torn out page with the pros and cons list he made about Paige. And that's another throwback to season 1.
Yeah.
That leads to the scene at Olive Garden, which is a nice closure on that book. Right. And Doug, meanwhile, apologizes to Casey and they have a tender moment. And, they finally make up with each other. And he also has a tender moment with Elsa before he leaves for Antarctica with Sam. And it's like, how's Elsa going to survive without the two of them? She says, I'm generally pretty chill
about this stuff. Yeah,
yeah, with Nick, right? The bartender?
The bartender. He'll be over.
Yeah, seriously.
Right.
So it's this big scene where Sam and Doug are about to leave, and Casey gives Sam a picture of her hand, like a print.
Right.
To
smack her.
Yeah, exactly. And Sam gives her his green hoodie.
Right.
Just like, he's passing off his old clothes to her, just like when they were little.
Right. Aww.
And Zahid finally picks up the stuck boots.
Yes.
Thank goodness. They were stuck to the floor for most of the season. It reminds me that all of the seasons have had a metaphorical gun, which is like, a recurring element. Like if you introduce a gun in the first act, it has to go off in the third.
That's Chekhov's
That's Chekhov's gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The playwright.
Yeah, like in season 1, it's the relationship between Elsa and Nick. Mm-hmm. And in season 2, it's the hole in the wall that stays in the wall for most of the season. Mm-hmm. And in season 3, I think it might be the plants.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Mm-hmm. In season 4, it's the boots?
Yeah. Either that or Casey biting her nails.
I think I'd go with the boots because they have more comedic potential.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a great shot there at the end as Sam is stepping out with Doug and he sees Antarctica.
Yeah, he opens the door to a polar setting.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting visual for the show to end on, I think.
Yeah. So, do you know whether they're planning another season, or is this?
I think it's announced that this one is the last.
Yeah. So that's kind of a great way to end the series because I don't really need to see Rappaport in Antarctica.
Yeah, really.
I don't need a lot of that. Mm-hmm. But it's like he's stepping out and you see Antarctica right outside his door. Mm-hmm. He's going to be with his dad. So you have every reason to believe that any gaps in the plan. You've got Doug, who's a trained EMT, who's going to be there with him, right?
Yeah.
So that's helpful. And they didn't wrap everything up they set everything up for like if they did get another season, you could play it out. But, but just like everybody's grown, you know, and I think
including the showrunners, I believe.
I think so too. Yeah. So
because they hired more actors on the spectrum.
and got a good result from that. I'd say absolutely.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I'd like to give recognition to those people. Abby is played by Kimia Bepornia, and Anthony Hawkes plays Christopher in seasons 1 and 2. And Tal Anderson plays Sid in seasons 3 and 4. She's doing her own thing. You should check her out. And Domonique Brown plays Jasper. He's got a pretty cool account, I notice. And Layla Weiner played Amber in seasons 2 and 3. Yeah, she was the pessimistic one,
right.
In Sam's peer group in high school it was. But, yeah, she has a good Instagram page.
Good. Well, it's good to hear. And you're right. It feels like the show has gotten more representative.
Yeah, I hope they set a trend.
Yeah.
Because that whole magic with Zia, oh my God.
Uh-oh. That was a train wreck.
Yeah.
But, I mean, myself, if you have the right guy, you have the right guy. And I think they got the right guy for Sam. I think this is an actor who pulled off the role.
Yeah.
But that means that you incur a debt. I think it's permissible to violate representation, but that you've taken on a debt when you do that you ought to repay.
Yeah.
And to make it overall better.
Yeah.
I think that the show has done that.
Yeah. And another great show that's done that is Everything's Gonna Be Okay by Josh Thomas.
Oh, yeah?
This Australian comedian who... this show's on, I think, Freeform, but it might also be on, like, Hulu or some other streaming network. But I found out that he's actually on the spectrum himself, and so is Kayla Cromer, who plays his younger sister on the show. And, they actually address it on the show. The characters themselves address their condition. And Kayla's character in particular is open and honest about wanting to have sex at her age. And, I think it's good to see neurodiverse characters like that who are sure of what they want.
Especially if that's the topic. Right? Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, Guillermo. You did an amazing job taking us through Atypical. And we had a great time with this season.
Just as Sam might watch Penguin Town to make sure they get it right with the portrayal of penguins, people like me watched Atypical to make sure they get it right with their portrayal of the spectrum.
There you go. And it just chains out from there.
And we should add, for our listeners who haven't heard you on our other podcasts, is that you are award-winning filmmaker and writer. And you edit and you teach film. And very successful.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope to appear on this podcast to talk about other things.
Of course.
Because I don't just focused on one show. I don't just watch one show.
Right.
I don't just focus on one media genre or one celebrity.
Well,
or one
now that
band.
Disney Plus is becoming such a big thing, I was wondering we could do a show where you really teach us, like when you took me on that tour.
Oh.
At the Disney Museum.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the studios.
That's great.
I mean, it's like having your own private docent tour. So, and you gave me this whole education, and we're starting to work on a film idea together that involves puppets. So you're educating me on that, and I'm going to go look for some more education.
Oh, great.
So, I think there's a lot to say.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
so
thank
much
you.
for helping us get NatterCast back up on its feet after after the longest hiatus we've ever taken.
Yeah, you were like there was like I saw one person, I think it was Malik. We went to his house, and then Guillermo was the second person I saw when we broke quarantine. We had that like really
and
safe.
Andrew, we've seen Andrew.
Andrew.
My sister.
And your sister. And then we went on a vacation.
Yeah.
But and now we're really glad we did the vacation because not only do we feel much better from it, we don't think we could go right now.
Exactly. We want
new crap going on.
We went on vacation to Costa Rica. At the beginning of July, early mid-July. Even then, it was like, okay, this might be a little dodgy, but okay,
we were careful. And the place we were going to was really
isolated
and super aerated, and everyone was behaving.
And I don't know if it'd be heartbreaking to not go. But if we had to go, if we were going this month, I don't know, man. It's getting rough out there. So
yeah.
Well, anyway, and so we have some shows coming up. Hopefully, we'll be doing, Andrew and I will be doing a couple of our movie throwdowns, and we might do some show stuff, and absolutely some animation talk and more Gamerness. But until then, I think I heard the car park gang out front.
Oh, yes. My favorite part, and I'm totally going to rip it off for our film. The car park gang in Penguin Town makes me giggle so much.
Yes.
It makes me giggle, but what I'd like to see, Patton Oswalt did a great job, but I would like to give a chance to Malcolm McDowell to do a Clockwork Orange version of the car park gang.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.